you can continue to win your spouse over or seek to win your spouse over with the way that you love them, with the way that you serve them, with the way that you treat them, even if they don't reciprocate. Hey, 1 Degree fam, I'm Nathaniel.
And I'm Zan, and this is the 1 Degree Podcast, where we talk about what it looks like to be married as followers of Jesus.
Look, we know that life gets full. Marriage, kids, work, church, sports, the list goes on and on. But we believe that a thriving marriage does not happen by accident.
Each episode will give you real conversations, practical tools, and biblical encouragement to help you connect deeply with your spouse and live on mission together.
So, whether you're folding laundry, driving to work, or maybe even working out, we're glad you're here with us.
Let's dive in. What is up, 1 Degree fam?
What is up, fam? Welcome back to the cozy, comfy, virtual leather couch. I kind of caught myself because I started saying it weird. And
Cozy.
So, cozy, comfy, virtual leather couch.
Here we are.
And here we are. Today, we're going to be talking about something that may apply to you. It probably does apply to you if you clicked on this episode.
True.
We're going to be talking to the spouse who feels like they're the only one trying.
To clarify, we're thinking in the context of, we talk a lot about weekly marriage meetings, implementing spiritual disciplines, these things into your marriage. So not trying, giving any effort to your marriage necessarily, yes. But you're really trying to implement these rhythms to grow. And it feels like you are swimming upstream while doing that. And so this is something that we come in contact with a lot as far as people messaging us, those kind of things of, hey, I love this idea of a weekly marriage meeting. It only really works and it takes two to tango. So what would you recommend? And so we're kind of going to curate our thoughts for you. And hopefully it'll just be encouraging to you. You'll walk away feeling less alone, maybe.
Yeah, and I will say that if you are in that boat where you listen to our content or you've heard us talk about those things of regularly praying together, having a weekly marriage meeting, just being intentional in your marriage, and you think to yourself, oh man, so many people out there are being intentional in their marriage, and I want to be intentional, but my spouse, whether it be my husband, my wife, my spouse just doesn't want to put in the same effort, or just they say they're too tired, or they think it's cheesy.
Yeah, I was going to say, we address those.
Yes.
And a lot of times it's well, you don't feel them, but your spouse does. Those ideas of oh, this is businessy, or oh, this is stuffy, this is structured. Maybe it's your spouse saying those things.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that happens far more often than you might realize. Or maybe you know that, but I think that's the vast majority of marriages out there, because that is what's often modeled in marriages. When you're growing up, very few people that I talk to
had parents
with that level of intentionality, and I even remember there's probably only been one couple that we met that did weekly marriage meetings before we met them and before we talked about them.
Oh, yeah.
We have one really close couple friend, and it was almost refreshing of
I know
oh my gosh.
I know a few that have done them.
Yeah, but I'm just saying it's rare.
Yeah,
and so don't feel discouraged if you're in that boat. And hopefully that this episode is encouraging to you and gives you some practical things you can do in the meantime.
Alrighty. So
number
without
one.
further ado, we love a list.
Yes.
Number one.
So there's 6 points. We're going to be talking about 6 points.
Be the pastor to set up our outline for the note taker.
That's right. So if you're the note taker out there, point number 1, and I think that this kind of lays the foundation for the rest of this entire episode, is that you need to first realize that you can only control your own actions, that you cannot control your spouse's actions. You cannot try to manipulate them. You cannot want things for them, but you need to start by realizing and understanding and embracing that, okay, I can only control my own actions.
It's something we tell our 4 and 5-year-old all the time. Your sister is not why you are upset. You are the only one that can control.
But I also have this conversation with coworkers, of people on my team all the time of, hey.
I feel like your job mirrors parenting often.
Yeah, but I'm just saying it doesn't matter if other teams try to cut corners, they try to do this thing and they do it wrong. I want our team to be known for excellence. In everything that we do, we pursue excellence. And so it doesn't matter what your spouse does or doesn't do. It doesn't matter that, they don't want to pursue intentionality in your marriage or whatever it may be. You have to remember that you can only control your own actions. And actually, it's funny that we bring up work, or that I brought up work, because this kind of reminds me of a scenario I had recently with a coworker. It wasn't on my team, just a coworker, a friend, and they were filling out this kind of feedback form because their review is coming up. And I was talking to them about it, how it was going, everything like that. And they just kind of had this mentality of, oh, it doesn't matter what I say, they're just going to do what they want anyway. And I pushed them and I challenged them, and I was like, look, what often happens, you may be right. Like, I'm not going to try to claim that, you're wrong. You may be right, but what often happens is that we'll have this mentality of, oh, it doesn't matter what I do. And so then before even trying, we limit ourselves. Like, before even pursuing intentionality, in his case of filling that out, having a goal, having a purpose, filling that out in depth.
But limiting your outcomes.
Yeah, and limiting your outcomes. And so it's because you have this underlying assumption that it's not going to work. So then you don't even put in the effort, and it limits your outcomes versus, and I told him this, I was like, if you just fill this out in detail and depth, you have this goal that you're pursuing in the midst of filling this all out. Because I asked him, I was like, what would be the number one outcome? What's the number one desire you have from your review? What would you want to see come out of it? And he kind of explained that.
Always.
No, and that wasn't his. That wasn't his.
Yeah.
He had something else and some other concerns and everything like that. So I was like, okay, so your review should be tailored around that one goal, and you should lead into the conversations. It should help lead you into conversations with our boss. And I said, and our boss is awesome, and he loves our boss too. But what I was kind of saying in that is that, look, you have an opportunity in front of you. You have an opportunity to sit down one-on-one with this undivided time and this undivided attention. If you just limit your outcomes before you even try, that's only your own fault. But if you fill it out, if you pursue intentionality, you fill it out well, you have this goal, you take care of how you go about it, and something doesn't happen, or your assumptions were right and it doesn't change anything, well, at the end of the day, you can still rest easy knowing that you did everything in your power. You made every effort that you could to change the outcomes. Because if you don't do that, you can never truly know, oh, was it because I didn't give it my best effort, or was it because, they didn't want to change or something like that?
They truly didn't hear me, yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, so reel it back in.
Yes,
application for the one married to a hesitant spouse.
Yeah. And what I would say is that you control your own faithfulness. You control the way that you show love to your spouse. You control the way that you serve and love them, even when it's difficult or hard. And so don't have this mentality of, oh, it doesn't even matter what I do. It doesn't even matter that I try. It doesn't even matter if I try to initiate a conversation or do the X, Y, or Z. You control your own actions. And so what I'm saying is, what were you going to ask?
I wasn't going to ask. I was going to say the word that's coming to my mind, because I've been studying James lately, is steadfastness. And that idea of steadfastness being patience amidst suffering, or patience, this, not to say this would be suffering, but like patience difficulty amidst a path of resistance, patience amidst not seeing changes. So your patience, your faithfulness to continue to try, your faithfulness to continue to choose to love and we're not, again, we're just making these, I don't want to make it about a bigger picture of your husband's not even trying in your marriage. This is purely with these habits and these smaller things. But your willingness to not just write it off, and you're just going to continue to pursue it, obviously with discernment, that is steadfastness. And I think we're all called to steadfastness in different ways. So yeah, that was just a nugget.
Yeah, and I think that kind of sets the underlying foundation of, for the rest of these to work, it starts with this mentality change, or it starts with just having this mentality of, oh, I know it's going to be difficult. I know it might be hard. I know they may not want to initially pursue some of these habits or rhythms or anything like that. But I'm going to continue to try to love, to serve, to support, to pursue my spouse, even if they don't necessarily always reciprocate.
For sure. Number 2, pray for them. And this can sometimes feel like I give it this caveat all the time. Maybe it's not a fair caveat, but it sometimes can feel like a cop-out answer of oh, well, have you tried praying for them? But I think honestly, this could have been number one and should probably always be number one. Pray for them for the sake of you pray believing that the Lord will change their heart and that they will desire to be intentional and implement these kinds of rhythms. You also pray for the sake of changing your heart and having a softness
Mhm.
towards them and having that steadfastness, having whatever it may be, wisdom. If any of you lacks wisdom, ask for wisdom.
Yeah.
Ask for wisdom in your marriage, in the big things and the small things. The small things
Yeah.
being implementing a weekly marriage meeting. So yeah, make it a regular habit if you're not already to
Yeah.
pray for your spouse. Have it be something that you do throughout the day. Every time you text them a check-in at work, like have that be a cue to you to pray for them. Pray that their day is going well. Ask them if there is anything that they need to be prayed for, those kind
Yeah.
of things.
And I would even encourage in that too, it's twofold. Pray for your spouse, pray for softened heart, pray that the Lord would continue to grow them and to mature them, but also pray for yourself, that the
Right.
Lord would give you wisdom. And you alluded to this, but I want to also drive this point home, is I think oftentimes we can take on unintentionality, this mentality of I am always right, my spouse is wrong. Or
Unintentionally.
unintentionally, yeah. And not even if you don't like actually think this sentence, it can kind of come across in the way that you go about life of, oh, if only my spouse just wanted the same things I did or wanted to grow like I did. And so pray that the Lord would just reveal and soften your own heart and that would give you wisdom and how to approach that with your spouse. And if there's anything that you're doing wrong or maybe preventing or hindering that growth in your relationship, that the Lord would reveal that to you.
Yeah. And revealing any idols. Like
Mm,
perhaps you are making a weekly marriage meeting or a Bible study together or whatever it is that you're
yeah,
wanting to implement. Like maybe you're holding that as like you're elevating it to something that it shouldn't be, even if it's
yeah,
a good thing. Um, yeah, who knows?
yep.
Just pray for that discernment. So,
And so that's number two. Number three is, so we talked about the vertical relationship,
mhm.
asking for wisdom from above. Now the horizontal relationship, consult friends, mentors, pastors, but specifically ones that will point you to Christ and also ones that will challenge you. Because I think oftentimes we like to surround ourselves with friends that are just going to almost like I saw this meme about ChatGPT of,
Oh my gosh,
just like,
the
oh, you
validating.
just, they're constantly
That's a
validating.
great
That's a
idea. Let's
great
run with
idea.
it.
Let's run with it. Or, man, that sounded so selfless and kind. And, they just really are kind of puffing you up in a lot of ways, ChatGPT. But
Mhm.
I think as we continue to more so consult AI like ChatGPT,
Mm.
we kind of we already try to do that with our friends. Like we want our friends to validate us. We want our friends to be people that we can just vent to that, oh yeah, man, if Zan's talking to friends, oh, I can't believe Nathaniel did that. Oh man, like I can't believe he would say that, do that, whatever it is. Or if I'm talking to friends about Zan, oh man, like I
Yeah,
can't
or
believe she would do that.
yeah, just validating your side
Your
of
side of
things for
things
sure.
without, pushing you and challenging you. And so number one, I would say I would encourage you to surround yourselves with friends, mentors, pastors that push you to Christ, that cause you to look to Christ, are pushing you to pray, pushing you to read, pushing you to, first and foremost, pursue your relationship with Him. But then also, too, that maybe will challenge or push or even just ask questions about some assumptions that you made, and not necessarily always opposing you, but they're not afraid to challenge you because we are all human. We are all sinful. We are all fallen. We all make mistakes. And so we need people in our lives that are going to call us on that are going to challenge us, and that are going to push us to grow from those.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I would say is number three. Surround yourself with people that also, too, I would add to this, people that are going to genuinely pray for you and your spouse, that's not just going to be,
Undervalued element of
yeah,
friendship for
yeah,
sure.
but it's not just going to be like, oh yeah, I'll pray for you. And then, they go off and never do it. But
Yeah.
people that are genuinely pursuing and loving the Lord. And that when you bring up concerns, when you bring up issues, when you bring up ways that they can pray for you, they're going to go and they're going to actually do it.
And be that for other people. Be the
Yeah.
friend you want to have.
Exactly. So that's number three. So remember, number one, this mentality, you control your own actions. Number two, pray for your spouse and also pray that the Lord would soften your own heart. Number three, surround yourself with friends, with mentors, and with pastors that support you, that love you, but that ultimately push you to Christ and that will challenge some of your underlying assumptions. And then number 4, and now we're kind of starting to get into your relationship or interactions with your spouse. Win them over with kindness.
Kill them.
Kill them with kindness, but genuinely. And I know this might seem cliche, and I want to use a passage of scripture here that oftentimes may somewhat be controversial, but we're not going to dive into that. We're gonna. I personally am very convicted and encouraged by this passage, and this passage is 1 Peter 3, 1 through 2, and you can tell pretty quickly why it might be controversial. But it says, "Wives, be subject to your own husbands, so that even if some do not obey the word, they may be won without a word by the conduct of their wives, when they see your respectful and pure conduct."
They may be won, WON.
Yes,
I feel like when you're hearing it,
yes, they may be won without a word. So what this is referring to, this is Peter talking to wives that are married to unbelieving spouses, or that's kind of the underlying assumption here. And so what Peter is saying is that it's not only just your verbal interactions of, that idea of preaching the gospel, but it's the actions that you take. It's the way that you live your life. It's your pure conduct that can also eventually win them over to the Lord. And so obviously when it comes into having a marriage meeting or something like that, like this isn't the exact same context that Peter was talking about. But what I
Not
am
at all. Nope.
But what I am challenged and encouraged by this pastors, and I think both husbands and wives can find principles that apply to them from this passage, is that, hey, you can continue to win your spouse over, or seek to win your spouse over, with the way that you love them, with the way that you serve them, with the way that you treat them, even if they don't reciprocate. Yeah. And so I think that's what I find encouragement over. And I remember we had a pastor when we were in North Carolina that talked about, like, one day he came home grumpy from work, or I guess, it was just pastoring or whatever.
I think you still go to work.
Yeah. But he came home grumpy, and his wife greeted him at the door, and
he sat down. I remember he said he sat down at the table or the desk or something, and she gave him a shoulder massage.
Yes, that was the end of it. That's where I was getting to.
Sorry.
But he was came home, and she was like, "How was your day?" And he was like, "I don't want to talk about it," and just walked away. And he said in that moment, she had every right to be like, "That's not how you talk to me. Let's try that again. Hey, I would appreciate if you were kinder in the way." She had every right to basically chew him out, is what he was saying. But instead, he went into the other room. She came up behind him. She gave him a shoulder rub and was like, "Hey, I know it must have been a hard day at work. Why don't you tell me about it?" And immediately he said he felt so much conviction.
It's very
and
disarming.
It's just very disarming. And I get and I understand you might be thinking of, oh, well, that's him because he has the Holy Spirit and he feels that conviction. And even if I did that with my spouse, they wouldn't react the same way. But again, I go back to, you can only control your own actions, and it's not guaranteed that you will win them over in that moment. But over the long run, I want to encourage you is that those little moments, they add up. And so continue to pursue your spouse, continue to love them, even when it's hard, continue to seek to serve them. And so that's what I would say. And I'm just very challenged by that passage, because I think oftentimes for me, and again, obviously our marriage is not the context that Peter was talking about in this passage, but I'll still have this mentality of, Zan was the first one who started this argument. She should be the first one to apologize. Or Zan was the one who went off the rails first. She should be the first one to initiate prayer, or something along those lines. And obviously I recognize that's a sinful and wrong mentality. But then when I read 1 Peter 3 and I think of this idea of, no, it doesn't matter who started it. It doesn't matter who was more upset, who was more in the wrong. I have a responsibility and I have an ability to continue to love and serve my wife regardless of what she has done, hasn't done, anything like that.
For sure.
Yeah.
So, number 1, you control your own actions. I think number 4 really ties into that.
Yeah, it does. But
number
it's more
2,
practical.
Pray for them. 3, consult friends and mentors who will point you to Christ. Number 4, like I said, ties back to the whole idea of you control your own actions to win them over with kindness. Focus on those things that are in your power. And then number 5, start small. So we don't need to go too into this. You're going to get the gist. But if a weekly marriage meeting, which admittedly is a commitment, like we have been doing it for years and it is still a commitment every week to get it done, to do it well. So if they're not willing to put 20, 40 minutes on the table, start with asking Hilo Buffalo every day. Or even just checking in.
Yeah.
Tell me something great that happened for you today. I think Hilo Buffalo's we're biased to it because it's fun to be able to share both the highs and the lows. And then I think Buffalo is fun because it's just making you rack your brain for something funny that happened. But yeah, so start with a Hilo Buffalo instead of a weekly marriage meeting if that's too much. Or if you really want to start doing Bible study or a weekly family devo, but that is also maybe too big of a leap, start with, hey, can we just pray together, and be the one that prays if they're not comfortable praying out loud at this point. Whatever it is, just think about how you can scale it back. I think of it as like teaching. If you're trying to teach this concept and the class isn't there, like how can you scaffold it? Like how can you make those little micro steps? Do that for whatever rhythm you're trying to implement.
Yeah. And I even think like you can continue to scaffold it down of maybe Hilo Buffalo, they're grumpy and they don't want to do it. It's like, oh, hey, what's one thing that went well today? What's one thing that didn't? And even
just
if they're grumpy, but even if they're grumpy and they don't want to answer that, I go back to kind of like the baseline question of, hey, how can I love you better? How can I serve you better?
Yeah, maybe they don't want anything that. Yeah, I'm thinking that's a better question because that's how can you serve them? How can I take something off your plate right now?
How can I take something off your plate? But even if it's not, right, because people might be like, there's nothing you can do. But going back to the idea of, hey, how can I love you? How can I serve you better? I think anyone would respond to that question.
Again, a disarming question in my mind.
Yeah.
And worst case, there's nothing and you are being faithful and you can only control your own actions. And if you continue to ask that question, maybe they'll be prepared for it next time and give you something. So yeah, start small. And then with that, celebrate those small wins. So don't get bogged down by like, oh, great, we prayed together, but we're still not having a weekly marriage meeting, or like whatever it is. Whenever something is growth of any degree, celebrate it. Maybe just internally
even
praising.
If it's just 1 degree.
I know when I say degree, I'm like, but praise the Lord for that. Like literally pray that and be grateful. I mean, maybe use discernment. Maybe that's not something, it could feel patronizing to celebrate it out loud to your husband, but recognize, I also think what you recognize, what you magnify grows. So saying like, hey, I really appreciated that you did that. Like, this is really meaningful to me that we started praying. This is really meaningful to me that like we're doing this Hilo Buffalo rhythm. Affirming those things, even if your spouse isn't a words of affirmation person, I feel like everyone just has a little bit of that in them, even if they're not good at receiving it.
But I even think of, you ask them their Hilo Buffalo, they respond and they ask you yours, and it's the first time, or they don't often do that. And it's just like, oh man, I feel so loved and appreciated when you ask me that question, and then jump into it. Just, it doesn't need to be something big, major, but just that small little recognition of, oh yeah, this makes me feel loved. This makes me feel appreciated. Thank you for asking me. Those little things can go a long way.
Yeah, for sure. I think that applies to every relationship in your life. I think a lot of these do, but yeah. That's all I got for you guys. That's all you got. That's all we got.
That's all we got.
Well,
so 1 degree shift.
Our 1 degree shift. Yeah. Do you got one?
Yeah, I would say that if you're in the position where you feel as if you're the only one trying, or that you're the only one that's really trying to invest in growth and health and all of that of your marriage, start with that mentality shift, because so often it can be easy to become bogged down with that idea of no matter what I try, no matter what I do, it's not going to make a difference. And so then you let that affect your actions. And so start with that mentality shift of, I can only control my own actions. So how can I pursue the Lord? How can I pursue my spouse? How can I love them well? How can I serve them well, even if they are not easy to love, even if they are not easy to serve? Because ultimately, you can only control your own actions. So start with that mentality shift.
For sure. All right. Catch you next week.
1 degree fam.
Thanks for tuning in for this episode of the 1 Degree Podcast. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And we'd be so appreciative if you take just a few seconds to leave a rating and a quick review. We love to hear your feedback, and those ratings really do help make it easier for others to find this podcast.
And if you want to continue this chat or share your takeaways, we'd love to hear from you. Head on over to our Instagram at the 1 Degree Podcast and leave a comment or send us a DM. We can't wait to hear from you. Catch you next week, 1 Degree fam.